Oh, greetings, YouTubians, and the electric kingdom through which we embrace. Take 4. Yeah, so I've been trying to do this thing on the Tarot here, and 17 minutes is the best I've been able to do it. I guess this is just going to be a longer video than I intend for it to be, because you deserve every portion of it to be full and complete. So I've been studying the Tarot as an obsession since 1972, when somebody let me look through the Thoth deck in a car. And being an artist and a painter, I wanted to paint those images myself, and next thing I knew, I had spent 10 years investigating the history and origin of the cards. I mean, I've always been psychic. I've never needed cards, to read. But, I eventually learned all that stuff, too. So, come 1992-93, creating my own decks and exploring various new forms of the concepts. My favorite being a deck I created where there are no people in it. But hi, Mr. Bluebird. That's Buddy. He's my friend. He wants me to give him a peanut. So there's a lot of things that when you study the Tarot this long that are left remaining unanswered that you really want an answer to. By 1993, I realized that I was only going to find the answers in understanding the order of the cards. Because there's certain mathematical phenomena that take place between numbers 1 through 22, and they correlate to certain geometric, sacred geometry principles and ancient alphabets and their symbolic meanings, primarily Egyptian and Hebrew, but others as well. And so I began this research project on the order, which, in the beginning of the Tarot, the first few decks, they don't even come with numbers or names on them. So nobody really knows what but I decided we could reverse engineer the order through the content of the cards, and through trial and error and a lot of exploration, I set up all these means to do this. It took me about 7 years. But in 2003, this is the order I stumbled into that has never failed me in any of the mathematical computations, and it unites both the Hebrew and Egyptian languages together perfectly, and it just really rings, soars. So I want to reveal to you this order and a little bit about it. Card number 1. These are BOTA cards. I hand-colored myself in 1993. A class I gave in Salem, Mass, where for months and months and months, during all different calculated astrological moments, each card, according to their astrology, was colored by the students alone that night. So this is the Emperor. He's card number 1. He's sort of like Thoth in the Egyptian religion. A lot of times you see these barren mountains on Emperor cards for centuries, going back to the 1600s. So you could say he may represent the moon. But he's got his T-square and his circle and his cube and stuff. He's the designer, the creator, that force that establishes the universe in concept. Card number 2, the High Priestess. She's a goddess, and she's definitely this guardian of portals. I think of her as Hecate myself. But one could easily see her as Athena, rising from the head of Zeus. But she's the portal goddess. She's the one that we just sort of create her image. It's hard to explain. It doesn't really exist except in our minds. Card number 3, the Magician. I think this is the most misunderstood and corrupt and disturbed card in the whole deck, mostly because of the Western ego that surrounds the whole concept of this card presently. I renamed it as the Altar in 1993 because that's the part of the card that's truly significant. The figure we see in the background is the ancient Greek Hermes, who was a special figure that was always placed behind altars, public altars especially, which were always outdoors in front of temples. Hence the flowers and the plants and things we often see around this card. But we've lost touch with what the Hermes really means, and we have to make it ourselves and how great we are. Card number 4, the Empress. Now, in really old decks, her flooring is usually yellow. She definitely has something to do with the sun. The heartbeat there, her shield, the heartbeat of the sun, and the little spear with the cross, it's on her scepter, unlike the Emperor who's just holding it. He's just receiving the sun. She's directing and commanding it. And the woman and the water and the trees and everything we see in the background and throughout this card, is dependent on the sun. Number 5, the Hierophant, or the priest. I don't really like this card in most decks, but he's supposed to represent sort of the voice of the ages, like the wisdom of our ancestral stream coming to us at a certain moment. Don't eat the red berry, you'll die, But there's a lot of stuff going on with this guy too. We're just quickly going through it. Each card can get a whole 30 minutes. Number 6, Temperance, who I like to think of as the goddess Iris, because she's doing the whole time and space thing. I like the versions with the 2 jugs especially. But she's sort of the wire, the line, the communication network, goes through all time and space. Nice goddess. Card number 7, Lovers. What can we say of the lovers, the media of life? Actually, we're looking at probably the first television program humanity created. These 22 cards. And if I'm right about the order, we're looking at episode 1, 1300 AD. But here we're seeing more of a concept. I mean, yes, it is male and female, but it's more, pairs of beings, and there's the mountain of eternity, and we're eternally reoccurring, trying to get to the top of that mountain. Number 8, the Chariot. This one's more the actual physical form, everything's being created, and the spirit that's embodied in it. The guy with the stars above his head, he's the spirit. And down here we actually see the male and female little sphinxes there. We'll just leave it at that for a moment. Number 9, the dear goddess of birth, Alethea, the strength card. And she's giving birth to the lion by opening up its mouth and consecrating its purpose to exist, let's say. But in geometry, we just look at how the number 9 fits into any kind of geometric or mathematical situation. Strength is a great name for it. 10, the Wheel of Fortune. This card there's more variations of throughout the history of the tarot than any other card. In fact, this card there's so many variations of before there's even a history of tarot. make your head spin. So we won't think too much about it except point, okay, line, maybe circle, but it's sort of the birth of geometry, and it's the birth of many things. So. And these first 10 cards are sort of a template, a blueprint of nature and what is divine throughout all life. So here, card number 10. Now card number 11, we start with the conditions that are activating and using what's in that blueprint. And I believe they represent what we call the solar gates. So we're looking at the sign of Cancer here. And, you know, this is where life's journey in a mystical way really begins. You know, the fields are planted and everything's good and labor stops. And now we get a few months to, like, really look at ourselves and see where we're going and what we've done and what we want to, you know. So this is the hermit. He's looking into the inner you, and he's trying to navigate the unknowable without, and sign of Cancer. Card number 12. Second water sign, Pisces. This is a card of intuition and sacrifice and initiation. And when I drew this card, I wanted to really make a sunset behind his head and the sky going up into a dark starriness in his feet and stuff. I was too burnt out this night. I just couldn't do it, and I had to leave it all blank. But that's what I was seeing. And so this is card number 12, the sign of Pisces, the second water sign. And the third card, number 13, in the second series, this is the Death card. The whole trick of this card for the artist is how to animate the skeleton to be alive. But it's a very Osiris, you know, we got the Nile going out into the setting Mediterranean sun and the black soil of the Nile Delta and the pieces of Osiris and his friends all chopped up. But basically this card is just like how we chop ourselves to pieces every day and put ourselves back together at every moment. And it's the transformation of life. It's also when we chop off a little piece of ourselves, like the sperm from a male, and give it to a female's egg, and reproduction. And therefore it's the astrology sign of Scorpio. Third water sign. Okay. Out to the big bad guy. This is my sign, Leo. Okay. Old Mr. Devil. But more than likely, I think, with a lot of things I know about the tarot, this is Dagon or Dionysus or Pan. But we know it as the devil. And it's all about, like, germination, you know, the rebirth of things. And, you know, Leo is, you know, the sun, you know, the center of the solar system, so he's the center act in the whole deal. And it's also a card of, like, sexual initiations that take place in the July and August time of the year, you know. So there's a lot to be said about card number 14. Card number 15, the Tower, the second fire card. This one is the sign of Aries, the beginning, which is always the end. Okay, so these two guys falling, they're part of the end. The lightning striking, part of the beginning. It's like the mystery of the sign of Aries. It's actually a very positive card, even though people give it a lot of negative connotation. In ancient times it was called, like, the Thunderbolt or the House of God. Ooh, number 16, the Star. Now, in ancient times, they didn't have scales, so you just divided things. You just kept cutting them in half. And you stopped at 16 for whatever reason. So she's this great mother figure who portions out the water to the lake and the water to the land. And, in the background is an olive tree. And the big star in the center usually has 16 rays. But she's card number 16. And she's the third fire sign, Sagittarius. Card number 17, the Moon. We got the wolf for instinct and the dog for desire, and got critter crawling out of the water there for like subconscious memory. Represents the astrological sign of Libra, 2 towers, the moon grows and it wanes, and in Kabbalah this represents the mouth, the cosmic mouth of the universe, because all the other planetary influences are resonated to us through the lunar sphere. But this is number 17, the moon. Number 18, the sun, which is the sign of Gemini. And this card, it's a very psychic card, actually. And so once again, it's got the solar deity above and the twins below. It's a constant theme in the tarot once you start to see something about it. Here's our card, folks. Okay, the angel card, which is the sign of Aquarius. And, everybody's got a guardian angel, and he's speaking loud and clear to his little boy there. Number 19. Number 20 is the Justice card, sometimes called the Adjustment card. I don't really think either name does it justice, but it's just a joke. But it is the earth sign of Virgo. And we'll see some more importance of it here real soon. Okay, so the 21st card is the Fool, representing the sign of Taurus. And he's just having a lovely day. And we'll leave him sort of brief too. The last card, number 22, Capricorn, Virgin of the World. The opposite of where we started, the Hermit. So, that's the order. Now, what I wanted to show you is like what we call the descending pairs. So if we descend from either end of this order, the first pair we get is the Emperor and Gaia. So, sort of the as above who's in charge, as below who's in charge. If we continue through, then we're going to get the same thing here. Okay. Priestess and the Fool. And then I just wanted to get to this one here too, because this one's very important as well. So we got the Adjustment and the Altar. So, we come before the altar, we make our prayers and stuff, and then the female forces of the universe, they adjust everything and nurture all life according to what's called upon them and required of them to meet with. And then like this pair here, We got the angel and the empress, and she's like a sun, and he's sort of like her ray going out. He's sort of like Lucifer, this power, this light that extends of her intelligence and becomes solely this one ray that touches this one child and becomes solely his guardian angel. Okay? So we can do that all the way through. Or, we can look at pairs like these two. The original first two, the mom and pop of the universe. And then, we can compare them to these two, the mother and son of the earth. And they're really the as above, so below. And I know an enormous amount of pairing methods through sacred geometry. That's what's key about this order I've shown you. It is explosive through any of these sacred geometric pairing, which, and when you get right down to it as a card reader, I mean, everything's like, oh, this card's next to this card. I mean, it's the whole nature of the beast. This is how the tarot works, whether it's in a divinatory way or not. But what's very important about this order I showed you and the various pairings, I mean, they just go on forever. There's a whole bunch of them once you understand the mathematical, fluctuations. And I just want to document it and share it with all of you, and hope that you bring it to good use and be granted great light and find a whole new consciousness of being electric and moving out of this physical kingdom through, because I think it's electric more than light. I know everybody's into this, like, see the light, become part of the light, but I don't know, I got this hunch it's more of an electrical condition that we seek and call enlightenment. So there you go. Little bit. Took me 40 years to tell you that story. And I love the Gaia story. Earth Mother. She creates all these magical little forms that the Fool card represents, and appoints this deity to adjust and watch over everything and its interaction, and then that goes to the whole guardian angel who's coming down off the sun and separate ray, but put some cards in this order, your favorite deck, go through it back and forth and see what kind of story. Then start looking at the pairs, pairs going this way, the descending pairs, or the integrated pairs, where we take the first and last card and the second and second to last, and get right down to the middle. Like I said, I've got a whole channel set up for this, and if people are really interested, we'll just move it over there, but this is just to give people an idea of what's potentially there for me to talk about, because I'm all aces when it comes to things like tarot and witchcraft and, all the stuff that doesn't make you a buck. Well, it can if you want to use it in a twisted way, but in the purest way, it doesn't make you a buck. But I've never charged money for teaching people the craft. I've never charged money for reading people's cards or healing anybody. I've been doing all that stuff for free for 40 years, or longer. But I'll charge you money in business. You want a nice aquamarine crystal, I'll get it for you, and you can pay me what it's worth. Only doing that. So it's going to take longer than 15 minutes. I'm not even looking at the clock on this one. I'm saying, hey, YouTube, this time we did it pretty good. Covered everything basically, the first 10, the last 12, the solar gates of all the cards. So we got a good gist of it there. So happy full moon. Lots to think about and do. Have a great night. Blessed be. Peace out, people.